Hello everyone, and my name's Scott. We are parked on quite a precarious angle here, all in order to get you that shot of an African harrier hawk sitting up in the tree. It's a wonderful, wonderful afternoon here in the Sabi Sands. We're in South Africa in the Greater Kruger National Park. It's a massive ecosystem that we are certainly going to enjoy exploring this afternoon. We're only in a tiny little portion of the 3 million hectare plus reserve, but there's a lot of animals about, and the game viewing has been phenomenal over the last few weeks. Now, like I said, that was an African harrier hawk up in that tree, and I did see some African hawk eagles flying around earlier, but they seem to have disappeared. So a few birds of prey are out and about, and it's been fairly warm today, even though it has been a little bit overcast. There's been a lot of clouds coming in and going out, but it is a winter's afternoon. But we're quite lucky here with the weather, and we don't have to worry about rain. Even though there are clouds about, it's very unlikely that we'll experience rain this afternoon. I'm teamed up with Brian on camera, and Brent is out on the other vehicle with Wiem, and they've gone out in search of the Inkahuma pride of lion. Brent was lucky enough to locate those lions this morning, but they were fast asleep for the majority of the time he spent with them. They are very hungry though, and moved a huge distance last night through portions of Djuma, Sibambili and Arethusa. They probably moved about 5 or 6 miles last night, possibly more, but hunting along the way, and that hunting is very tiring, so they are certainly going to be looking for a meal sometime later this afternoon, hopefully during the broadcast. So that's something to look forward to. The plans for Brian and myself, we're not too sure yet. We thought we'd come out here to start off the drive and look for any tracks of anything interesting and hopefully find some animals drinking. We're at the Buffelshoek waterhole, and we'll take you on a quick journey of it. We're not parked on the best position now, but there was nobody other than the African harrier hawk that we could see. But there are also 2 nostrils poking out of the water, and they belong to a hippopotamus. As Brian zooms in, he's just disappeared under the water, and it'll probably be about 2 minutes before he comes up to take his next breath. I was sitting here the other afternoon, and he would generally hold his breath from anywhere between 2 and 2.5 minutes, and then take about 10 or 15 seconds to resupply his oxygen before taking his next breath. So it'll be a bit of a wait before that hippo takes a breath. This is a beautiful torchwood tree, and in the little gap in the trunk of that tree you can see the African harrier hawk. I'm not sure if you'll be able to hear, it's quite faint and far off, but there are some squirrels alarm calling at that African harrier hawk. Chicka 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 is my impersonation, which is a terrible one, but you may hear the tree squirrel's call being rattled off, warning all other potential prey items to be cautious of this bird. It typically hunts in cavities in trees, and has got specially designed double jointed legs to be able to fit into these cavities and try and pluck out baby birds or monitors or rodents, lizards hiding in these holes. So that's what it would typically be hunting on. The African hawk eagles that I saw flying above a little bit earlier that have disappeared are more hunting from the wing straight onto prey. So you get a lot of different predatory birds in this area that hunt differently and occupy different niches. I'm just going to reverse the vehicle and be able to show you a different view. And thankfully some of our viewers have provided some great intelligence as to what is going on Arethusa, and they've done that because there's a live waterhole camera on Arethusa, at the Arethusa waterhole, as well as at Djuma. And the report is that there was some elephant drinking at the Arethusa waterhole, and Brent is actually going to head off there. The lion were on Arethusa, so probably after he's viewed the elephants, and I'm sure he's going to call you along to join him when he gets there, he will probably head to the lion a little bit later. So he's diverted the plans. And for those of you who are joining for the first time, it's important to know that this is a live safari. So there's nothing scripted, and we kind of just have to go with the flow And this is a perfect example of that. His initial plans were to go to the lion, but now he's diverted off to the elephant, and our plans will probably change a number of times during the course of the drive. What is also great about the live safari is that it allows us to be interactive, and we can answer your questions that are really easy to send through. Hashtag Safari Live on Twitter, or send an email through to questions@wildearth.tv. And that way we can not only answer your questions, but we can hear your comments and feelings, and that way we can fine-tune the safari for you. Let's take a look around now that we're in a slightly better angle and see what else is happening here. Got an interesting question through from Dennis, and he's informed us that there's a North American harrier hawk, and he's wondering if this harrier hawk hunts in a similar fashion. It could well, and Dennis also mentioned that the North American harrier hawk flies quite low over the canopies of trees looking for potential prey, and so does the African harrier hawk. The reason why is it wouldn't make sense to be very high up, because most of its prey are going to be plucked out of cavities in trees, and in order to see these cavities, he can fly low into a tree and actually hop through the tree looking for holes in which he can dig in his talons and hopefully pry something out. Now, I'm not sure if the American harrier hawk also plucks prey out of holes, but this is highly specific and specialized adaptation for this African harrier hawk. And I've never heard of them or seen them actually catching prey other than that. Now, I must be careful, just because I haven't seen it, it doesn't mean it doesn't happen. And I'm sure if it was to see a chameleon crossing the road, it wouldn't bypass that opportunity. But the majority of hunting I've seen it do is clambering through trees, actually looking for holes in which to find its prey. What I'd like to do is try and get us a little bit closer to the tree squirrels that are busy alarm calling at it, just so that you can not only see but also hear the tree squirrel's alarm call. And it's a very useful call for us all to know, because it can alert us to not only birds like the... Let's try this again. Oh. On the way there, we may just get you. Oh, off it goes, but Brian's so quick, thankfully, that it hasn't taken him long to join you in its flight. Such a pretty bird of prey with that bright yellow face. And it's gone. And that means the tree squirrels in all likelihood will stop alarm calling now. So again, like I said earlier, the plans will change quite constantly through the show, and we are no longer going to find you the tree squirrels alarm calling, but hopefully what we will find you are some fresh male cheetah tracks. Yes, you heard right, cheetah tracks. We don't see many cheetah here in the Sabi Sands, and only on, I think, 3 different drives have we actually managed to capture them on film in about 7 or 8 months of being here. Now, the report that we got is that there have been 2 male cheetah moving from the property to the north of us in a south and westerly direction. We could get lucky. Oh, look, there's the African hawk eagle, it looks like. Maybe I'm wrong. Oh, no, that's something else. But what it means is maybe there's another tree squirrel alarm calling nearby. What could that be? I'm going to have to get some binoculars onto it, and I just want to get a little bit closer so that you too can also have a look. It's definitely a fairly big bird of prey, and I'm not sure what kind. No, it's off. That is a great pity. Well done to Brian for getting you those views that you did get out of it. And if any of you fancy a guess as to what you think that bird of prey may be, please help me, because I don't have a clue. Oh, did you see that?
Oh, I missed that.
Shh. Sorry, it's all happening, but let's keep filming out there, Brian. There could still be a bit more action. I just saw what I think is the African hawk eagles we saw earlier plummeting out of the sky in that direction. Well, sorry for taking you on a bit of a wild eagle chase here, but it appears that they're further off to the left here, Brian, in the gap, but I think they're too far off. Well, again, apologies for not being able to show you exactly what we saw there, but it was quite tricky, and all of a sudden I noticed this one bird of prey plummeting straight out of the sky towards that unknown raptor that flew off. Anyway, we're going to carry on looking for these cheetah that have hopefully headed in this way, and it sounds like Brent has found the action that he was heading off to, so enjoy.
Welcome back, everyone. Oh, welcome, sorry. My name is Brent. I got VM, aka the Wildebeest, on camera with me, and we're on a live African safari, and we're currently dealing with a bit of afternoon traffic. So we got the report that there was a breeding herd of elephant at the Arathusa Dam, and we weren't too far away, so we rushed off to join them, and at the moment they are using the road almost perfectly. So we're just sitting in low range and ticking on very slowly behind them as they walk down the road. Interestingly enough, we did check where the Nkahuma Pride was, and these guys are actually on their way directly towards where the lions are. So the lions might get a rude awakening from their afternoon nap. But a really nice big breeding herd. And there are actually still some young bulls actually walking behind us, sort of hanging on the peripheries of the herd. A little bit of dust bathing. Trunk in our general direction for a quick sniff. Yes, you're very scary. Now, carrying on. Just checking out behind us, there are still two elephant bulls, young elephant bulls behind us. They seem to be taking the shortcut around through there to join. So the lions are probably only 100 meters from here at the moment, and the elephants are heading straight towards them. So we could be in for a bit of a trumpet and chasing session. If I do get the opportunity, I am going to try to get in front of the elephants so we can be where the lions are when they start chasing. But obviously I'm only going to do that if I feel there is a safe opportunity to get around in front of this herd. This herd seems to have quite a lot of youngsters with them, which could make them particularly aggressive towards the lions. Some really big cows in this herd. I mean, these three big individuals here are really, really big female elephants. They do seem to be spreading out a little bit more. That quite often happens when elephants start feeding. It's always really, really wonderful to spend time with a nice breeding herd of elephants. Tiny little guy there. So definitely well under a year old, probably closer to around 6 months. Now, lions are just around this next corner, just off to the right. So quite a lot of youngsters with this group, which could make them even more sort of aggressive towards the lions. If they do go there, they are spreading out through the bush a little bit now. As they often do when they're feeding, these herds can be spread up over a couple of 100 meters. Oh, just don't get a fright for him, but there's a elephant bull walking up behind you. He's quite chilled, so don't worry. Getting a photo of him with an elephant right behind him. There we go. Guys, don't forget to take screenshots. I mean, these guys are really, really cute. I'm wondering if they're going to get a wind of those lions. I'm just going to try to sneak around the corner. Wait for Ziam's friend to join us. There he is. Probably about 7 foot from us at the moment. Yes, little man. Get ready, Vim. There could be some action. Or will the lions slink off before the elephants arrive? Or the elephants completely ignore the lions? So literally there's probably about 20 meters from this elephant in front of us and where the Nkuhuma pride are lying. Or were lying about 10 minutes ago. So we're right in amongst it now. The lions might keep their heads down. Let's see, with that, like that little baby up in front of us there, could make these females particularly more aggressive towards the lions than they would be normally. There we go, I think she smelt them. And the lions, I thought I saw something moving there. Okay guys, the lions are on the move. The elephants are going to chase them now. So I'm just going to try and get into a safe position where we don't upset the elephants, but also I can just see lion bums disappearing through the bush. So this is actually quite a dangerous situation, so I'm not going to get involved. As you see, the rest of the herd come storming in here, and the Nkuhumas disappear. We want to sit on the edge. We don't want to be involved, because when elephants are heightened like this, they could accidentally take us as a threat, and that would not be good. So we're just going to stay a little bit further away from the action. I've seen which directions the lions have gone. As I said, there was a strong possibility that they were going to chase them. I don't want to move the vehicle. The elephants, I've purposely put this nice big thorn bush here between us and the majority of the breeding herd with the babies. It just creates a bit of distance and space, a sort of natural barrier between us and the elephants in case they did become very worked up. So the lions were literally lying in the same place where we left them this morning. This elephant's actually probably going to go walk right through there and sniff where the lions were, this young bull. There we go, watch him here. He's going to sniff exactly where the lions. Watch his trunk near the ground. He's sniffing where the lions were. The Nkuhuma's made a quick disappearing act. The herd is continuing to move in their general direction, and it's safe now. They seem to have calmed down a little bit more. I'm going to move out and around and see if we can catch up with the Nkuhumas. It's a pity it didn't happen in a little bit more open an area, but you've got to be very, very careful in those situations not to put your vehicle in the wrong position, because that's where things can go wrong very quickly. So utilizing things like a natural boundary like this big thick acacia helps keep the Viam and myself out of harm's way, and still puts us in a position where we can possibly see the animal behavior that's going on. Unfortunately, not the best from a camera point of view. You guys couldn't see it, and all I could see was a couple of lion bums disappearing in a southeasterly direction. And the rest of the herd's now relaxed a little bit. They're still going to be slightly on edge because there was a predator like a lion around, but they are moving away from where they chased the lions. But it is going to give me a bit of a job. I'm going to have to try to track those lions again. But you can see the general demeanor of the herd has calmed down now. Their ears aren't erect. They're not standing tall like they were. But you can still see they're not as 100% as relaxed as they were in the beginning. So the females in this type of circumstances are generally far more aggressive than the males, and that's a question from Patty on Twitter. And most definitely they've got like that very cute little guy disappearing over there. They've got to look after the welfare of the baby elephants, where there's quite often the elephant bulls will be out on their own, and a pride of lions don't really pose a threat to a bull, even a bull sort of about 20 years old and above. So they're not too stressed about lions, but a young elephant calf that wanders a little bit far from the herd or whatnot would be a definite target for a pride of lions. So they are far more aggressive and far more, what's the correct word? Well, when they chase lions, they make sure they chase them properly. Whereas an elephant bull will quite often shake their head at them and walk past, I've seen. Sometimes they do chase them quite heavily, but that just depends on the moment. You can see they are keeping a lot of the youngsters quite close. So we'll stick with these ellies while they're walking down the road, and then we will try and get into the drainage line. It is quite a thick drainage line, and try finding kahumas again. If I remember correctly, there's a little sneaky spot to climb into the drainage line around the corner. But I can hear a great go-away bird. It sounded like a great lower go-away bird alarming. So I'm pretty sure I've got a good idea where the lions have been left, or where they might have stopped. Whether they stopped there permanently is a different question completely. One we'll hope to answer quite shortly. And while give these ellies a chance to move around the corner, we're going to cross across to Scott, from a very big animal to a very small one.
Welcome back, everyone. And from one of the giants of the African wilderness to one of the smallest antelope we get in this area, she is a little steenbuck. And she's just finished going to the bathroom. And we didn't want to embarrass her, but we did really want to show her to you, and because she was stopped for a toilet break, she seemed quite relaxed with us and is allowing this wonderful close view of her. Now, interestingly, with steenbuck, they have their own little territories and they will compete fiercely for their own little patch of turf. And that little toilet spot we're just going to have a very quick look at. And that way be able to tell you a little bit more about it, because it's kind of like at the hyena den site this morning, how they use urination to help send messages and leave notes for other hyena about what's going on. This little steenbuck is no different, and they'll use very often pre-assigned spots in which to do their business. Let me just jump out quickly. I'll just be a moment or two, and then I will get you back to those elephants. Well, that possibly was not the case now, and I can't see any further sign of what she did. She was actually covering it up with her hooves, so maybe I was completely wrong about that. Anyway, we're going to send you back to the elephants, and we'll see you a little bit later.
welcome back everyone. We have found where the elephants have, watch the aerial there, have chased the Inkahumas and they've run through the Donga. And they're now lying up here, but it looks like they're about to get mobile. I'm going to be quite busy on the Game Drive channel. There's a whole bunch of people who want to come here right now, and I'm going to have to explain to them how to get here. So just bear with me for a few seconds. Said. Cedric Caution. Relocated, I think it's called Magically Open on the power lines. They are mobile, sort of in a south-easterly direction at the moment. Copy said, yeah, you're breaking up quite badly. I'll stay with them till you guys arrive, and then I'll move out and take first standby. Copy. So guys, the Arathusa guys are just getting moving, and all three of them are going to come here. So we're going to stay with the lions while we can, and we're going to let them get a chance to view them, and then we're going to move straight back in once they're finished. And it shouldn't be too long. So in the meantime, before they arrive, we're going to try to stay with the lions while they're on the move. Okay, looks like we're going to lie out in this nice open area. So I'm just going to be on the radio for another few seconds. There's quite a lot of noise in my ear, and as soon as someone else arrives here, I'll let them take over. Yeah, isn't that quite a sight? Look at her sniffing the air. Look at her, she's just testing the wind, possibly smelling an impala or wildebeest or zebra or buffalo, who knows. Just getting sort of an afternoon update from the wind. Yeah, I said, sorry, I was a bit off on my directions there. I think I'm quite a lot further to the north of that open area. There's a large sodic site on the southern side, or erosion sodic site on the southern side of Safari Donga, probably to the south and east of where they were left lying up, very close to the power lines. Copy. Okay, so it looks like they might keep moving again. She's definitely maybe smelt something up ahead. As you can see, they are quite hungry. They haven't eaten yet. The rest of the pride are lying out all around us, quite spread out. That she's definitely smelled something. The others don't seem as interested, but just on that amazing behavior we just witnessed, Gail in Rhode Island was wondering, do the elephants ever put all the babies in the middle, or do they generally rush forward on like we just had them do? quite often they will rush forward on, and the babies will pick up from the adults and rush with them. I've never seen elephants consciously sort of corral babies, but they do stand right next to their moms. But buffalo, on the other hand, I've seen corral the babies and females into the middle with that formidable wall of buffalo bulls on the edge. So I've never seen it with elephants. Generally, when they are chasing lions and whatnot, they sort of come forward in this mass wave. Oh, right next to us on the right here. Yeah. Hello, madam. So it looks like the girls are on the move now. So there might be some chance at some hunting action. Kathy from Memphis. Welcome on, so far, a very exciting sunset safari with the Nkahuma Pride and a pride of lions. They're coming past right next to Vim, giving him the evil eye. And Kathy would like to know, would a pride of lions take the opportunity to try grab a baby elephant given the chance? Most definitely. They're opportunists. They would take any opportunity like that to even grab an animal as big as an elephant. So really, really possible. I have seen lions attempt to kill baby elephant in Botswana before. I've never seen it in the Sabi Sands, but that doesn't mean it doesn't happen from time to time. So guys, this is my fourth safari in a row with Nkahuma Pride, and we know of for sure sort of five attempted hunts. There could have been others. So the rule of law, or the rule of odds, say lions kill sort of 1.5 times out of 10. So we sort of, by virtue of odds, getting to a chance now where we might possibly be around for some action. They haven't eaten in at least three nights now, so they are getting quite hungry, and hopefully with these elephants pushing them early, it might get them, and it has got them on the move and on the hunt a little bit earlier. So really, really fascinating stuff. And isn't this incredible? We've been able to spend nearly 4 full safaris, so nearly 12 hours with these lions in the last couple of days, and that is incredible. And that's one of the great things, that we are following them through and keeping up with the whole sort of story. So we're just going to move around quickly. All right, jump up ahead of them. Going into a particularly thick little area. We're going to see if we can squirm our way around this thicket. Guys, I'm just going to ask you to cross back to Scott very, very quickly while I have to deal with this really, really thick bush here. So, sorry, bear with me. I'm just going to have to go through here, and I'll be back with you in as soon as possible. As you can see, that's sort of this impenetrable wall, and I'll be back with you now.
Welcome back, and we're on our northern boundary, a long straight road called Buffels Hook Cut Line, and to the right we don't go, to the left we do go, and this is the possible area where we could find some tracks of 2 male cheetah that have been moving into this area apparently. Now there's another predator that I've just seen that's also moving through this area. The tracks aren't very easy to see, and they're probably from early last night, but if we look over my right shoulder, you'll see a few tracks in the sand over here, and those are the paw prints of what look like a female leopard, just judging from the size. They're not very fresh and crisp and clear, but it has been a very windy day, and this is a busy road. Now there's no saying how far that leopard has moved down this road. It could have made a kill just around the corner. So even though the tracks are not fresh, it's still useful for us to be able to know that there was a leopard heading in the same direction as us. So it doesn't even matter if we don't find the cheetah tracks. It would obviously be a very pleasant surprise. Now some of you may be wondering, what is the difference between a cheetah track and a leopard track? The cheetah's track has got a very angular back pad, and basically there will also be claws seen on the toe marks of a cheetah's tracks, whereas the leopard's claws are only protracted when it jumps onto its prey. The cheetahs are always protruding, and that's because they're very different animals in terms of their hunting. And the cheetah doesn't actually need to latch onto its prey like a leopard does. It often just trips up the prey, and it needs those claws, and those claws need to be out permanently for it to travel at such high speeds. The fastest mammal on the planet. Oh. Just want to check. It looks like the leopard may have headed off down towards the waterhole here, although I think I may have seen some tracks continuing. Let's just have a look here and make sure. The same waterhole where we were originally stopped, where we started the afternoon, and the tracks that I've just seen now are actually hyena tracks. So the leopard does continue down this road. We've got a few requests through from a number of you, Susan and Christine and a few others, wanting to hear about the incredible sighting that we had at the hyena den site this morning. And it was incredible interaction between various members of the clan, ranging from the smallest new addition, a tiny young cub, probably only 2 or 3 weeks old, up to the slightly older cubs, which are probably anywhere from kind of 8 to 10 months of age. We're not entirely sure. And then a variety of adults and sub-adults. And there was a lot of playing around and quite aggressive play fighting between some of the members of the clan. And then at one stage, the young cub that we had only seen a few glimpses of, it had actually come out of its burrow to acknowledge greetings from other clan members. So we had a few glimpses of it. We heard it kind of letting off quite a high-pitched squeal. And within seconds its mother had returned, so we're not sure whether the cub had heard its mother returning or somehow the mother was just nearby when it called, but within seconds the mother was there in the burrow. And then one of the other adult females, who I think is ranked higher up in the clan than the female with the new cub, came in to investigate the little cub, and then the mother of the cub kind of attacked the other mother that was coming to say hello. And there was all kinds of pandemonium breaking out. Then another 2 hyena came and chased the same mother of the new cub. So there was a lot of very interesting hierarchical behavior and dominance displays, and that's kind of understandable because it is a complex hierarchy, that of a hyena clan, with all the females ranking higher than the males, and within those female ranks there will be times where some may try and compete with others or become jealous with others, and I think we were lucky enough to be in the right place today to experience a bit of this dominance behavior and strength behavior between the hyenas. So some really awesome stuff, but we can only read so deeply into it. We would need to spend day in and day out with that clan and build a database of information in order to be able to conclusively kind of decide what happened today. The amount of time that we get to see them interacting is not quite enough for us to be able to make conclusive decisions as to why exactly it happened and what exactly went on, but we certainly were lucky to see the action that unfolded. We may head there a little bit later, so who knows, maybe that behavior will continue this afternoon. I do know somebody is heading there initially, and they'll let us know if it's active or not. By the time we left, all the hyena had left before us. The leopard tracks are still going down this road, so it hasn't veered off or made a kill yet. But like I said, even though the tracks aren't very crisp and fresh, the leopard may not be too far from here. If it did make a kill of a decent size, let's say an impala, it could feed on it for 3 days. So that gives you an idea of why it's important to continue following up on tracks, even if they're not extremely fresh. Just peering over there, there's some tracks of a herd of buffalo, but they don't look fresh enough to follow up on. Just after I've been saying it's still used following up on older tracks. Not in the case of a large herd of buffalo. They move big distances and will already be a long way off from now. Now Gilly in Wisconsin would like to know if we see any dik-dik in South Africa. It's a very small antelope, and sadly we don't get them here. There's a number of different dik-diks, the Kirk's dik-dik, Gunther's dik-dik, and a few more, but they occur mainly up in East Africa and other parts of Africa, but the only place I've seen them is in Kenya and Tanzania. They're an incredibly cute antelope, and they've got quite a long nose that they can actually move around from side to side, and they need that long nose to help them thermoregulate in the very hot and dry and arid climates that they live in. So they've got a very peculiar nose, and they're probably about half the size of the steenbok and the duiker that we see here, but it will depend on the exact type of dik-dik you're looking at. Maybe not half, maybe half to 3/4 the size of a steenbok or a dik-dik, but we'll have to go on safari in Kenya to show you those, and hopefully that will happen one day, but we don't get them in South Africa. Well, the reason why I stopped here is because I saw another set of leopard tracks that looked to be those of a male going in the opposite direction to us and then veering off this road. So in the wrong direction for us, but again useful to know that there's a male moving here, possibly a mvula, a dominant male who does move through this area. The female, I'm not sure who it could have been, possibly Karula or the Nkanyeni female, which we have yet to see, I don't think, any of us, but she does spend time in this area from what I'm told. And speaking of male leopards, we've got a question through from Football Expert. And good to know that the Football Expert is watching the safari and is soon going to be Safari Expert. He would like to know whether male leopards will kill their own cubs And no, they won't. It's very unlikely that they would do that, but what they may do is kill the cubs of other male leopards. So if they come across a female who's still raising her cubs and therefore unavailable for mating, and she's raising cubs that are not his own, he will kill those cubs in order to release the female of her responsibility to raise them, and that way he can get his bloodline into the ecosystem. And it's an important thing that does happen to ensure that only the strongest and fittest genes get through. But it does mean though that in certain areas where there may be a lot of movement between male leopards and shifts in dynamics, you may find that females are very unlucky and may lose litter after litter after litter simply because the males have not been able to strongly establish a territory of their own. And that is normal for nature to have these cycles where there will be shifts in territories, and we're actually experiencing a shift in territory at the moment where there's basically two main leopards that we have been seeing, Tingana on Arethusa and Mvula on Djuma. Now they do stretch onto other properties surrounding us, but those are the two that we have seen. Up until recently, the Anderson male has now started pushing Tingana towards Mvula and putting pressure on the situation, pushing Mvula further away. So there is some shifts already happening, and it'll be interesting to see what plays out over the coming months, and if we're lucky enough to see some action that unfolds between these males. Well, rather than speculating about what we can see and might see, why don't you head across to Brent, who has actually found something that you can take a look at right now.
Welcome back, everyone. As you can see, we've caught up with this breeding herd of elephant again. We're right on the peripheries with these young bulls. So the lions went to sleep again, and I just decided we'll let the other cars go there while they're sleeping. We'll go spend some time with the Ellies, and then as soon as we get a chance, we definitely will make our way back towards the Nkuhumas. I'm very confident we'll start moving again, and hopefully quite early today, like they did last night, and hopefully have a successful hunt finally. So I can hear Ellies all around. The majority of the breeding herd seem to be further off to the west of us. We'll go have a look now. We're just right on the edge with these two nice young bulls. One of the ones who was directly behind VM while we were with the herd earlier. So we just witnessed the elephants see off lions, and Carol in Illinois would like to know, in a breeding herd like this, if the lions attacked an Ellie, would the other elephants help defend it? Most definitely, Carol, they would, and quite aggressively as well. The whole herd would probably try to defend it. And the way the lions, I've seen lions hunt baby elephant out of breeding herds before, is to sort of, some of the lions will try to distract the adults, get the adults to try chase them while they try sort of cordon off a youngster. I'm just going to try and move parallel to this guy while he's moving that fallen buffalo thorn. So even though he's moving the tree quite extensively, what he's doing is what we saw quite a lot a couple of days ago on one of the sunset safaris, because we spent a long time with a nice big herd of elephant. Oh, sorry, it's a fallen down knob thorn, not a buffalo thorn. And we saw them moving lots of fallen down knob thorns that they've pushed down at another stage to try to get to the grass underneath. So there's obviously still some decent grazing grass that's managed to be protected from a lot of the other grazers by these fallen down trees. And now, with an elephant being as strong as it is, it's able to move these fallen down trees to get to that good quality grazing grass which is still underneath. can see, going between the branches to get at the grass. So this is one way elephants are able to utilize a resource that is possibly not completely available to things like impala and wildebeest and zebra, by being able to move what they've pushed down to get to that good quality grass that's remained growing and probably still has quite a bit of nutrients and moisture in it, from being protected by that thorny sort of cage. Well, if we have a look at an animal like an elephant are quite an important one in the sort of greater structure of the ecosystem. And if we played a game, a terrible game, or not a terrible game, and a very interesting game, what if we were to remove elephants from this ecosystem? What would happen? Now, elephants are very, very important. They're also the landscapers of the bush. So if we had to remove elephants from this ecosystem, what do you guys think will happen, and how will it affect animals like zebra and impala and wildebeest? How do you think the removal of elephants would affect those animals? And you can send your answers to questions at WildEarthTV or use the hashtag SafariLive on Twitter. So if we come out VM, you can just show everyone how close he is to us at the moment. He's probably my body length, about 6 foot from the side of the vehicle. And he's giving VM a good squiz. So I'd guess this Eddie Bull's probably early 20s. And completely not perturbed with us. Look at his behavior. Happy to continue on feeding. Taking very little notice of us. Feeding off an acacia now. Not a knob thorn, but it looks like a red thorn. And you can see it's got incredibly large, sharp thorns, but that Ellie's skin is so thick, it has almost no effect on him. And he pops those big thorns right into his mouth, and zoop, gone. So we're going to leave this young guy on the periphery. The rest of the herd has headed sort of in a more easterly direction. And there is a road that loops around, so I'm going to try pop around. So we can try and see if we can see some of those wonderful little guys. Standing by. Copy that. So if there's anyone else who'd like to go ahead, relocated on that Cabriolet Law, they are slowly mobile east now on I think it is, I forgot the name of that, sorry, but Zebra Drive junction with, oh my goodness, the road after Parallel. There we go. just try get up here quickly. How's that feel?
That's good.
So now that bush that this elephant cow is eating with her calf there is quite important in that sort of question I just asked you. What would happen if we removed elephants from the ecosystem? And that little bush that they're eating at the moment is very, very important in that answer. We've got another question from Carol in Illinois. Carol's wondering about baby elephant feeding habits and wondering whether do they only eat or only drink mother's milk, or do they also eat grass as well? Carol, when they're very young, they will drink exclusively mother's milk, but as they get older and they learn to use their trunk, they will sort of eat a lot of sort of grass and leaves and that, but not really. They'll drop a lot of it and will still be mostly dependent on their mother's milk for the first year of their life, almost entirely dependent on their mother's milk, even though they might eat some vegetable matter. Sean, if there's anyone who would like to go ahead of me, they're more than welcome, with that large number of law on Eli Ali Junction with Zebra Drive. As you can see, a perfect example of that young guy still hasn't quite mastered the use of the trunk. It's got something there and chewing on it, but probably getting very little from it. Well, and as always, the fork-tailed drongo present, taking advantage of any insect disturbed by the eddies. Isn't that incredible how she used her foot there to break that branch? Now if we just watch how she just turns that in her mouth, removing the bark and the cambium layer. The cambium layer is the most nutritious part of the tree, and that's what transports the nutrients from the roots of the tree or bush through to the rest of the plant. You can hear the drongos as they hawk around, catching all the insects that the ellies disturb while they're feeding. And then we can actually see how she's removed the bark there. And see she's left the center pith, or the center of the branch, and she's completely left that and taken off that nutrient-rich layer beneath the bark. There's a nice young bull behind her. So have a look at this little guy in front of us. Eating round leaf. Come off to the left here, please. Here in the middle of this. This little one closest to us here. You can see how it's eating round leaf teak, and you notice all the teak around there is almost all the same size and the same age. I've actually got a friend who calls that round leaf teaks elephant popsicles, because they really do love it. And it can be really in really big trees outside of an area where there's elephants, and that's another hint to the question I asked you guys a little bit earlier. What would happen if we removed elephants from the system? And how would it affect animals like zebra and giraffe and zebra and giraffe and here we go. You can see round leaf teak, better known as elephant popsicles. They really do love them, and they keep these round leaf teak thickets in this. Hello, old daddy. Where are you going? After that. So she's very close, as you can see. There's my hand. Feeding off these little bushes that are all around. And when they move past, we'll have a closer look at those little bushes.
A funny ear.
Yeah, very funny ear. You can actually see the hair on the ear. People often wonder where an elephant's ear hole is. Is it on the inside? But it's actually on the outside. This is a great opportunity to have a good look. And obviously the hair is there to stop things getting in. And here we go. You can see right into her ear. So obviously when she puts her ears forward, that acts as a big satellite dish that it catches all the sound around. Imagine it's sort of like a big radar dish. Oh. We're going to just move around, and then we're going to have a quick discussion about that question we asked a little earlier. Cheers, Ed. So as these elephants disappear into these thickets, just stop with them here. So we asked the question, what if, in a terrible circumstance, that if elephants were removed from the ecosystem, there have been a lot of correct answers and well done, the bush would start reverting, become a lot more closed and would start reverting back to sort of more woodland. And I mean, in areas where you don't have elephants, round leaf teak actually becomes a really big tree, massive trunk. Your grass, a lot of your grass species will die away. And we've got this little bush just to the left of us here, and it's called a sickle bush, or Dicrostachys. And that would, in some places, literally becomes an impenetrable wall. And in terms of detrimental effect towards your species like wildebeest and impala and zebra, it actually removes the majority of what they're feeding off. And this is obviously not good, and it actually affects biodiversity. Elephants, like human beings, are architects of the environment, so they will continuously change the environment. One of the few species in the world that is able to do that, and that's what makes them such an important cog in the ecosystem. So if you removed, and even if the removal of elephants might even affect things like buffalo and inyala and kudu, because these walls of same species plants, obviously not very nutritious, and especially when plants like this sickle bush next to us get big, they actually become quite unpalatable, and the elephants keep them young and tasty by breaking them and continuously feeding on them. So they're really major part of the ecosystem, and you can definitely see in areas where elephants have been removed, and you get this wall of one type of tree, literally impenetrable. I've seen animals not actually able to run through it, I mean, like this, and underneath it's completely barren. Maybe the odd sort of little creeper or scrub, but almost zero grass. So the removal of elephants from an ecosystem could be a very big problem in the long term. And in a lot of these reserves where they have been removed and now reintroduced, it has taken time, and some of it's nearly 20 years, and the bush is still much thicker than it would have been traditionally. So we're very blessed the fact that we are in an open system with the Kruger and the elephants come and go, and we have a really healthy elephant population. So very lucky, keeps the areas nice and open, nice grassland like this for the other animals to feed on. And having those open grasslands and the prey species and the herbivores there attracts lions and leopards. So it's a win-win, and everything sort of fits in. We're going to leave these elephants to, excuse me, move along and try head back towards those Nkuhumas. It is getting a bit cooler. Fingers crossed they might be on the move. And what a wonderful herd this is, very relaxed. They are moving off into some thickets here now. And I don't want to go bashing and crashing in thickets after elephants, especially a herd that's got young babies and has just had an encounter with a predator. So let's err on the side of caution, and let's go see what those lions are up to. We had a comment from Ginny who says, well, without elephants, the poor drongos wouldn't be able to catch all the insects being disturbed. Well, Ginny, the thing about a drongo is it is so adaptable that I think they'd find something else to take advantage of while following up on insects. But in the meantime, we're going to cross to a reptilian with Scotty, and while we make our way back towards the Nkuhuma Pride, and we will see you a little later.
Welcome back, everyone. And we heard that Brent was discussing how important elephants are in the ecosystem, and I thought we could show you a tree that we can thank the elephants for killing. Well, we don't want them to kill all the trees, but this specific one is a little bit different. You'll see it's dead. All of the bark has been removed from the woody inner of the tree trunk, and once that cambium layer of bark is removed from a tree, the transport system from the roots to the leaves is cut off, and therefore the tree will die. And this dead tree will then become a home and a microhabitat for other animals that live in small cavities that are easy to bore into while the tree is dead. And it also makes for an easy perch for lots of birds of prey to land on. It's a very important structure for a lot of animals, and it's not just keeping the vegetation low, but it's also creating these very special homes for animals. Now if we take a closer look into one of the cavities in this tree, you'll notice that we've got a large reptile hiding in there. You can just see the head of a rock monitor lizard. It's probably around 45 centimeters to half a meter long, possibly even longer than that. And he's been hanging out here for quite some time. Almost every time we drive past we see him in here, and he won't be highly active in the winter months. He'll be far more active in summer when it's hotter and when also there's a lot more food around for him. But isn't it interesting how the elephants can be thanked by these small animals for creating this potential home for them in a living tree? It's far harder for them to dig in and excavate these cavities. Wonderful. Hopefully in the summer months, as it warms up, we'll see him poking his head out of this hole further and further until one day we might actually get to see him entirely out of the hole. Interestingly, that very same hole in the summer months was home to a pair of woodlands kingfishers who migrate from the central and northern parts of Africa for our summer months. And we actually were sitting here waiting to see what the adults would bring back for the chicks to feed on, and we saw one of the adults bring a tiny little snake that it had caught that one of the chicks got to gobble up. So that hole already, in the few months that we've been here, is already telling quite a few stories. So it goes to show just how important they are. Brian asked me earlier why I'd driven all the roads with no animals on, and it's a good question. So far we haven't had too much luck, until we bumped into that monitor lizard, I guess. But that could change at any stage, and I think we overdue a leopard sighting, even though we have seen him quite regularly. Or possibly some interesting birds along the way. But the only way to find out is to stay tuned and see what we find around the next few corners that we meander through. We are kind of in the central parts of Djuma, heading south, and I don't have too many reports to go on of tracks from this morning. So I'm driving around a little bit blind at the moment with not too many plans on the go. But you can't always have fresh tracks and be following up on animals. And equally, sometimes you don't even need to follow the tracks. There could be a leopard walking up this road towards us that we would require no skill in finding. It's just about being out here and spending time in the bush, and eventually we will get lucky. I guess for Brian and myself this morning, we were overwhelmed with luck at the hyena den and had a magical sighting there. If you weren't tuned into the show, it's worth having a look at the highlights reel, because we got some great interaction of the hyena clan trying to establish dominance and reaffirm hierarchy, and we weren't sure exactly what caused it this morning because we've never seen intensity like that at the hyena den, but there certainly was some great action to be seen. On a cool day like this, it wouldn't surprise me for predators to move during the course of the day, so we may find some fresh tracks as we drive around that were not detected this morning, so that is something that is worth mentioning. Well, we had a request, it was a few days ago, and I can't remember exactly who it was from, but somebody requested that we do a riverbed cruise, so I hope you are watching today, because due to our lack of better plans, I think a little cruise down the Mulwati riverbed would be the perfect way to show you a bit more of the scenery, vegetation that we get you, and possibly some animals that we could find lurking through it. Because we are in a very low-lying area, we may have some signal issues. So apologies if the screen gets a little bit shaky, but I think it's worth the risk. This is one of my favorite settings to see a leopard in. Just about any animal, there's something about these sandy riverbeds that really appeals to me. We haven't found a leopard, but there's a far smaller carnivore just in the road up ahead of us. Sorry, Brian and I were on a different wavelength there. Brian was about to take you and show you the beautiful leadwood trees, which we will do once these dwarf mongooses scurry off to shelter. They do seem quite relaxed though, and may not be scurrying off anywhere at any time soon. Well, one last mongoose. Oh no, he's got reinforcements. Another one's just come to join it. It's interesting that it's just sitting there out in the open. There's no sun that it's basking in, so I wonder why it's decided to relax there. But then again, there's a lot we cannot explain about what these little animals do out here, and what a lot of the animals do out here. As much as we like to think we can, some things we... Oh, look at that! What have you seen? Now he's showing off. He obviously heard us talking about him and thought, well, let me put on a bit of a show here. And he's obviously just wanting to search deeper into the thick bush that they may be heading into for any potential threats before charging in there. They're all looking in that direction, kind of wanting to go there, but none of them are willing to commit. They are getting reinforcements. I've seen about 6 or 7, but there's probably at least double or possibly triple that amount within the colony. There's a go-away bird now that's just started crying out. And also an Inyala in the background that we've just seen that's poking its head out behind a buffalo thorn. So let's carry on a bit. He looks like a beautiful big bull. And maybe we'll also be able to get some closer views of these dwarf mongooses. They usually run off, but sometimes you get lucky. Very close, and I'm surprised that this one has sat so calmly in front of us. Aren't they cute little creatures? But we also in a great position now to also show you the Inyala that are slowly coming out into shot. And that's perfect timing because the dwarf mongoose has decided to evacuate the scene. And in its place is a far larger but equally dark and brown coloration Inyala. Now at this time of the year it wouldn't surprise me if we saw these two Inyala bulls doing their slow ritualistic performance to establish dominance over other Inyala, because it is mating season for a lot of the herbivores. So it'll be interesting to see if these two males don't provide us with a really interesting behavior and ritual of how they establish dominance. They do a very slow prancing walk where they erect all the hair on their mane, making themselves look as big and bold as possible. But these two look quite content at the moment, but that could change at any moment. Beautiful. Let's carry on a little bit and try and see if we can see them in the sunlight that looks like they've moved into. Oh, we're in luck, we're in luck, we're in luck. There's a third one. And it's that one, the third one in the middle, that is currently posturing in this exact pose that I was hoping to see. Brian, if you don't mind just going tight onto that one in the middle. Now, as the other two get closer, we may be able to watch him start moving, and the other two may also get involved. But until they do, we'll keep a closer eye on him. Look at this. Now I'm sure he's going to slowly start moving, often in kind of like a circular motion. But he is showing these two how big and bold he looks. And they too might get involved and equally try and show him what they have to offer. Don't stop. Now, as I said earlier, it is coming the mating season, so they'll be trying to establish dominance over other males so that they can be in pole position for mating. It has calmed down now. But you'd probably find if there were some females nearby, which who knows there could be, that they're all following, we would expect an increased intensity in this funny phenomenon called philo-erection. And if that doesn't work, which it may not always do, they will clash horns and have a full-blown fight. But quite often in the animal kingdom, a lot of animals will try as much as possible to visually compete with one another before committing to contact. Well, we've just got a question through, and it's from Kathy in Tennessee. She's just got a little bit confused, and she thought it was the Inyala that had the white targets on its rump. It's a big circle as if the animal sat on a wet toilet seat. And no, that's not the Inyala, it is the waterbuck. And I guess one way you could help remember that is you could remember waterbuck, water closet, toilet seat, target on the bottom. Now, he's taking some time to adorn his horns and make sure there's no parasites boring into them, and also giving them a little bit of a sheen to impress the ladies. All the while nibbling away on the same bush that he's using to brush up his horns. Well, just to give you guys an update on Brent, he is currently on standby to join the lion sighting, so it's not that he doesn't want to be there, there's just a queue at the moment, and that is not uncommon when on safari, to allow other vehicles their turn to view animals, and you all slip into a standby rotation. So he is standing by for the lions, but while he waited, he, instead of parking under a tree and reading a book, he headed off in search for Shadow and Sindile. Their cubs were around the safari airstrip, or Arathusa airstrip this morning, but nobody's had any luck in tracking them down. Brent did do a loop around. At least if you know vaguely where they are, you can start the search again the following day. Great, well I think we can continue. And really happy that we got a glimpse of the philo erection displayed by that one Inyala. Beautiful afternoon. It's just started breaking through the clouds, and I really love this time of the year. There's so many different colors and contrasts, and it's also a lot more open than the summer, so you can see a lot further into the bush. Certainly my favorite time of the year out here, the winter months. Could, if you wanted to, go on all-day game drives very comfortably, whereas the summer months you would be melting away in the heat of the day. It certainly is worth mentioning though that there are certainly positives to being out here in summer. All of the migratory birds, a lot of the insects and bugs out, a lot of the reptiles are more active. So don't get me wrong, there certainly are great things going on here in the summer months. I find the winter more comfortable. As much as I love this riverbed, we are going to veer out of it and head down Mama Road.